So my day of high value activities, of time, of busy time, of productive time is just doing the first 10% of tasks and the final 10% of tasks. So there's like 15 tasks happening of that middle 80%. I'm just doing the first 10 and the back 10. And then everything else outside of that is strategy work.
Yeah.
Strategy work that has to do with like I talked about, of creating better offers, or so it's like a better, more new framework. So how can I make my offers better? How can I make our user experience better for my talent or for my clients or for my prospects?
So please welcome Mike on the show. Hey, Mike, thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, RJ. I appreciate it.
Truly appreciate it. I want to touch base on your early journey prior to the conversation. Like, what was your early journey looks like, uh, uh, and how you actually got into like entrepreneurship, like how things shifted for you, stuff like that.
Sure. I have my engineering degree, so I didn't know I was going to be an entrepreneur, but I had symptoms in my early life. My dad owns a plumbing business, and he's owned that plumbing business now for over 40 years. But the challenge is I witnessed my dad working every single day, 6 days a week, 6 days a week, early mornings, late nights inside that business. He's still, to this day, he's 83 years old, still works every day in
Wow.
his plumbing business. It's wild. So I kind of got the buzz a little bit into entrepreneurship, but I really got the big taste when I started selling Cutco kitchen knives as a college kid. 18 years old, 19 years old, paid my way through college, getting into entry level sales, doing direct sales with Cutco. And I made over six figures as a college kid sales through selling, and then advanced into sales management. Then I trained over 5,000 students and young professionals to do what I did, paying my way
Yep.
through college in that direct sales business. So that's really the origin of where it started. My footing started with direct sales.
So after that student life, like where what was the next direction of your life in business?
So I spent 20 years in direct sales with Cutco, and we did just under $20 million in sales. Here I'll tell you the long short version. Here's the long short version.
Yep.
I bought my first house when I was 20 years old, and I wanted to get ahead. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, so instead of buying a new car, I bought a house. And then by 22, when I graduated college, I had three rental properties that I was renting out, and it was all under the umbrella: retire by 40, be like ultra wealthy, like all this. And then
Yeah. Yeah.
2008 hit, and the market collapsed, and I lost the properties. I was negative $130,000 in debt. I had a 400 credit score. I was near bankrupt. My relationship just ended after 7 years. So I call it the valley of my 20s. I was in a really, really dark spot. I'm smiling right now as I'm laughing at my pain, but it was a tough season, RJ. And from that place, I just worked my tail off inside my direct sales business, making 50 to 70 grand a year, just trying to climb myself out of this hole. And then I eventually went to a Tony Robbins event in 2012, 2013, where he said, "My mess is my message." And from that place, I
Yes.
walked across fire. I'm now a 7-time fire walker. I've traveled and went to a bunch of different Tony events and were crewed with him. And from that place of my mess is my message was the birthplace of my books. I spent that next year, 2013, 2014, speaking at the school district in Pinellas County, Florida, 300 hours crafting that message and figuring out what is the message I'm sharing from the valley of my 20s. So
Hmm.
after speaking to the schools, that was the launch place of my first book, Grab Tomorrow Your Best Year Ever, which reached #1 on Amazon. And when we launched it, which led into 9 books, which led into a nonprofit to feed the less fortunate in the Tampa area. We provided 100,000 sandwiches to less fortunate in Tampa.
Wow.
But the challenge was I still was working constantly. So now I'm doing book signing and speaking. And now I still had my direct sales business. So I had no time for my #1 priority, which was I wanted to be a dad. I wanted to be a husband. I wanted to raise a family. So when I fell in love with my now wife, I hired a business coach in 2016 to help me figure out how to scale and systemize my priorities and figure out what my lead dominoes are that can create predictable revenue. So that way I could buy back my time. So that's essentially what we did. We figured out the place was going to be my direct sales business. So I sunsetted the book signing and all of everything I was doing with Grab Tomorrow, went all in on my Cutco direct sales office. And then COVID hit. And that was the full test. It was like, how do I virtualize everything, create these
Yeah.
systems, hiring offshore virtual assistants, setting up Zapier automations, doing Zoom virtual meetings versus in home presentations, creating internal communication channels that are a little bit more predictable, having templated approach. Like everything was just so systemized where somebody that wasn't familiar can easily do it. Like McDonaldified the business essentially is what we did, RJ, and that produced 1,000 jobs during 2020 and COVID. We did over $2.5 million in sales. We just absolutely crushed it. But the real test, like I told you before we clicked record, was when my son was born. New Year's Eve of 2020, he was weighing 1 pound 4 ounces, and we ended up being in the NICU and the ICU with him for 8.5 months. But during that time, because I put all that predictability in the business, it ran without me for 8.5 months and still produced $250,000 in revenue and 6 figures in profits without me there. So I called my business coach. I said, do you think we could teach other business owners how to do what you helped me do with my business? He said, let's find out. And that's the birthplace of what I'm doing now, where we've helped hundreds of entrepreneurs buy back time through installing simple systems in their business by using AI powered delegation, and technology solutions, automations, and it's been crazy. That wasn't the path that I anticipated, but it's helped me, and now it's helping hundreds of others. So I really appreciate the question. It's always fun to
Yeah.
share the story.
That's definitely amazing, and especially like the thing that you've shared, the takeaway from Tony, that your mess becomes your message, is definitely true, right? You figure out, you go all the way, you figure out like what are the mess you have, and then you kind of like play with it until you realize what's your messages, and like what you're there to share to other people out there, and what is kind of like became your voice, so that like you exactly know what you're there to offer to others. So speaking of that, like I would love to like dive deep on the concept of uh, prioritizing what's important. So what happens is like a lot of people out there spending 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours a day, but the output of that stays the same, right? They're like, I'm working, but like they're not getting out of it. Like what do you see is the common mistake you see like people are making? They feel like that they work, but the thing is like the outcome does not come out from the input they're trying to give. So like what do you think about it?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things. The first thing I would encourage this person to do that says they're being busy, they're going to be using their hours. 168 hours in a week is going to get used. So there's a difference between busy and productive. So the first thing I would do is I would do an audit to figure out what they want their time to be worth. So let's say this entrepreneur, this person we're talking to, wants to make $300,000 in a year. Okay. Well, I would ask them, if you want to make 300 grand, how many hours a week are you willing to work, or do you want to work for that 300,000? Let's say they want to work 40 hours a week. Say, okay, how many weeks do you want to take off? I want to take off 4 weeks a year. So they work 48 weeks. So now that we have an equation, 48 weeks times 40 hours a week is like 2,000, whatever it is. And then we have 300,000 divided by 2,000. That gives you a number. It's probably about $150 to $160 per hour. So that means this entrepreneur has a value of time at $150 an hour. So if they value time at $150 an hour, now we have to have them ask themselves to say, are the tasks that I'm doing valued $150 an hour or not? More than likely, they might say, well, nobody else can do it. Only I can do this. They
Yeah.
might say something like that. That's a controlling issue that a lot of entrepreneurs have. So I would encourage them, go to like Indeed.com and just search and see social media management, inbox management, calendar management, graphic design. I'm sure a lot of these administrative type of tasks that are keeping an entrepreneur busy can be delegated to someone else for less than $150 an hour. So I would have them figure out what are all the tasks that are under $25 an hour, and using USD, of course, figuring out how we could offload those. And then now that they bought their time back for the under $25 an hour task, then let's make a list of all the tasks that are $150 an hour or more. So that way they could reinvest those hours into the high value activities.
Hmm.
Now they might have a scarcity mindset. They might say, well, I don't want to spend $25 an hour paying, or $10 an hour, $15 an hour paying someone to do these low value tasks when I could just do them myself.
Yeah.
That scarcity mindset is what we need to shift. We need to say, Well, you're not paying them for you to go make a sandwich. You're paying them so that way you could be freed up energetically and time and focus to do activities that only you can do. A big example that I would suggest this person doing is like strategic partnership type of work, creating new proposals or new like ascension offers to pre-existing clients on how you could have more higher increase in lifetime value for your pre-existing offer, like things that only you can do that's in your genius that will truly move the bottom line. The biggest one is sales. That RGA, revenue generating activities. Find more prospects, close more prospects. Like, it's a very
Yeah.
simple equation. Everything else is probably not in your genius that somebody else can do. So obviously I could go in a lot of different directions here, RJ, but that's the easiest, most simplest foundation is figure out what your time is worth. Everything that's below that wage, offload and get delegated. Everything that's that wage and above, make sure that you're planting your flag and spending time there.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. And I remember like one of the videos I saw from Russell Brunson. He was talking about like at one point like 80% is the 100% when you're kind of like delegating to the team. It's like if they can get to the point where they can get like 80% of the job done, you're almost there, and they have mostly have done like all of the hard jobs out of it, which was insane to even think about in the first place.
And that concept from Dan Martell's book Buy Back Your Time is 10-80-10. The first 10% is started by me, the middle 80% is done by someone else, and then the final 10% is done by me. So for me right now, I have probably 14 or 15 assistants that are all
Hmm.
doing that middle 80%. So I do the first 10% on a lot of these tasks. So like getting me on this podcast, managing my inbox, managing my calendar, managing my social media, everything administrative, my CRM, everything that is happening is my tone. So that first 10%, what do? I figure out this is my tone, training my chat GPT. This is my tone. This is the avatar. These are the podcasts I want to go on. This is the templates I want to be used or modeled. These are the types of profiles. This is my target avatar of who I want to focus on and don't market towards. And I did all that initial 10%. Then that middle 80% is them taking that SOP, that playbook I created, and executing that middle 80% of that. So therefore, then it comes back to me. It's like, hey, is this what you want done? Is this accurate? Is this, how is the KPI? What's the performance metrics looking like? And then I come back and look at that final 10%. So my day of high value activities, of time, of busy time, of productive time is just doing the first 10% of tasks and the final 10% of tasks. So there's like 15 tasks happening of that middle 80%. I'm just doing the first 10 and the back 10. And then everything else outside of that is strategy work.
Yeah.
Strategy work that has to do with like I talked about, of creating better offers, or so it's like a better, more new framework. So how can I make my offers better? How can I make our user experience better for my talent or for my clients or for my prospects? How do I make it better? And then it's more, what do I need to do more of? What data do I need to look at? And then it's new. Then it's like, are there new solutions? Are there new ideas? Are there new concepts? Are there new AI softwares that are
Hmm.
needed? But new is very rarely my intention, because my intention starts with better or more first.
Yep, yep. That's definitely interesting. Uh, 1080, 1080, 10. Oh, that's great. So for somebody who's like who's starting out, who probably like making like anywhere 10 grand a month, never did any delegation, done everything by themselves, like what would be the essential way of delegating the very first thing? Like what do you think the very first thing should be, or like what should be the pattern looks like for delegating something else, or like who they need in the first place for delegation, so they start kind of like save up their time, or like buy back their time, and focus on other things? What do you suggest?
So there's a couple of ways to approach this. The first one is I would ask them to say, what is the thing that distracts you the most, that you find is a distraction, but it's also an energy drain? That's what I would offload first. A distraction that's an energy drain that also has a lower dollar per value. So for some people, it might be their inbox. Some it might be their social media. Some people it might be their outreach, like direct
Yeah.
messaging, or some people it might be setting up appointments for them, like phone calls, or like it just depends. It might be customer service phone calls or inquiries, right? So it just kind of depends on where it probably is going to fall, but it's probably going to be in the administrative umbrella of the business, and it's probably going to fall in like data entry or something like that, more than likely. So we got to get that offloaded first. Anything that's time consuming, anything that's repetitive, anything that's draining, get that off their plate. Another thing I would say is that really falls into two camps. It's either tasks that I'm doing them and they're creating distraction and reaction for me, and I really hate doing them and they drain my energy. Or the second camp is they're not getting done. These are tasks not getting done, but if they were getting done, it would create an environment where revenue generating activities could exist.
Hmm.
For example, if the task not getting done is sending out nurture messages on LinkedIn to potential prospects that I could potentially create a collaboration opportunity with. If there was someone sending out those messages, 25 of those a day, well, if I had over 100 of those, 500 of those messages sent per month, it might create an environment for collaboration appointments to be set up, but I'm not doing those messages. But if I had someone else do those messages for me, maybe it creates an environment where something could exist, as an
Yeah.
example. So those are the two needs. Those are the two tasks that are distraction or reaction for me, or tasks that are not getting done. But if they were getting done, it would create an environment for RGAs to exist.
Yeah, I remember like one time one of my coaches actually like told me like some of the things most people also don't realize is like I would love to know your thought as well, that some people don't realize the fact that they they don't need to delegate completely 8 hours a day of a certain task. They can always kind of like delegate chunks of their time first, and they will feel like massive difference. For example, in our case, like I was the person who was doing quality assurance for our agency first. But when we hired somebody else, like she started to do it at like 8 or 10 hours a week, and it offloaded a lot of things. And I felt like that was a lot of work that I was doing. It's not costing a lot of like offloading it and getting like much better work than what I was doing. So like that's the other thing like what most people don't realize. Like what are your thoughts on it?
Well, here's my immediate thoughts. I was just pulling up a resource. I'd love to give it as a gift, if that's okay, RJ.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a time audit workbook. It's 25 pages, and I was just pulling it up. But section one of this, it says tasks to delegate by offloading energy draining tasks. So there's email, like communication related tasks, email management, scheduling appointments, answering phone calls, managing mailings, client follow ups, and there's marketing related
I
tasks,
never had the
website
intention of
updates,
schooling
designing
or just
flyers and brochures, organizing and managing ad campaigns, social media tasks, lead gen tasks, project and transaction coordination tasks, research
Yeah.
and reporting tasks, general admin. Like I'm just looking through this. It's like pages and pages of all these different ideas for tasks for a business owner. And I'd love to give that as a resource because I think that could help. And what I'd also be willing to do for your listeners is if they want that resource, but they also want to pair it with like a conversation with me to help them walk through what are those tasks. And then on the second part of that workbook is what are the high value tasks? Like, all right, cool. You help me buy back my time, but what do I do with that time now? Here's
Yes.
several pages of activities that are high value activities. That resource could be available at betterthanrich.com/90-day plan, 90-day plan, betterthanrich.com/90-day plan. And it's right inside there. There's the Calendly link, but then inside the Calendly link, the event description, it says here's a 25-page time audit workbook with a hyperlink that takes you directly to it. And then at the bottom of that page, I've been doing some what I'm calling GSD summits. They're GSD, get shit done. These are virtual workshops where if you wanted to hop on with other business owners and actually delegate those tasks and
Hmm.
and get best practices on how to delegate, that's also on that link as well. So I felt compelled to share that, right? Because to answer your question, I might not do enough diligence to it right now with a few minutes that we have. But if I'm able to have a little bit more time with somebody to really help them tackle their low hanging fruit and how to buy back their time, those are a couple of free workshops, free workbook, and also a private a consultation of like let's figure out, let's create a 90-day delegation plan to get these things offloaded. And on the back end of any of this, RJ, if any of your listeners go through anything that I'm offering and they say, well, thanks, Mike, but now I got to go find a virtual assistant. How do I find one of those? We do offer a service that's like a one-stop shop that makes it easy. We have like 60 to 70 business owners that use our agency, but we will install an AI powered virtual assistant into their business for them. Like we've already vetted and hired and trained these team members. They all do work for me, so like they understand what it means to work for a business owner. But if that could be helpful, that is one of the services that we do offer. And we would love to have a conversation with someone who might benefit from that, instead of them going to like Fiverr or Upwork or
Mhm.
onlinejobs.ph. Like if they want to do it themselves, that's totally cool, but we've already done all of that. And we just kind of make it a lot simpler, and it's like a premium service that someone might be able to benefit from.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So like since you mentioned about like AI vetted freelancers, like how you actually recommend AI for delegating their time if somebody's like kind of like think about of doing it themselves, like how they can use AI as a benefit for delegations to make sure like their time can get more saved compared to like using it unknown of like how to get benefit out of it in terms of like delegating their time. What do you think?
Yeah, in one of those GSD workshops, I've done a few of these now. The first one I did is on the ATB, the avatar, tone, and brand. So what I did in that workshop, and you don't need my workshop for this. You could just go to ChatGPT or Gemini or Cloud, whatever you want to use, and train that AI on your avatar. Who do you want to work with? Number two is your tone. What is your writing style? And then three, your brand. What is the brand ethos, your mission, your vision, your core values? Train that AI and tell it, create a guide and a playbook for me on my avatar, on my tone, and on my brand. And I already have these created for you if you wanted them. But once you have that guide, now I can give that guide to a freelancer or to a virtual assistant and say, go ahead and write content for me. Here, now you can create blog posts for me. Now you can create social media content for me with my ATB, my avatar, tone, and brand. That's one example. Another example is inbox management. I have a playbook where you could just go to one of the AIs and say, help me create a guide on how to organize my inbox. I want to help on my labels, my label rules, my archive rules, my unsubscribe rules. My templated response rules, outgoing messages rules, compared to inbound message rules. And like you just have the AI ask you questions on those. And again, I already have these playbooks created, but if you wanted to go through it, that's what you would do. And then it creates a guide. So that way, when you have a freelancer virtual assistant, you say, here's all the rules that I have for how I want my inbox managed. Now you have a predictable playbook that's already created. Another example, I'll give you one more, could be on your content calendar. So if you go to your AI and say, I want to have a 30-day posting schedule for my content creation on social media,
Yeah.
help me create the outline of a content calendar. And it creates the outline, and then it says, it will give you certain types of posts. And you say, great, now that you have your ATB and you have a content calendar, you could have a freelancer take your ATB, take that content calendar, and really help you there. So these are just a couple of ways how a business owner can leverage AI before they get to the freelancer to help them create something that's predictable and easy to delegate.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely. So, like, if people are first of all, like, I will post up the all the links that you mentioned in the show notes, also in the description down below, so people can check that out and be the part of it and see like what fits for them. Apart from that, if people want to follow you and be the part of your world, where they can go.
I mean, I'm all over the place, LinkedIn, Facebook, all over. But the best place, if you actually want to get me and not my VA, is going to be go to betterthanrich.com/90-day plan. And that's 90-day plan, because that goes directly to my calendar where you'd get on my schedule. and they will also take you to a workshop that I'm actually hosting. Everything else is probably my like AI version of me, or it's probably my VA that's representing me using my AI. And I embody that. And I think that's important. I speak that truly because I have two kids at home. My son is now thriving. He's 3.5. We have a newborn daughter who's 6 months. I'm married. I'm late 30s. I want to have my time freedom. I can't be everyone everywhere. So where am I? I'm on podcasts. I've been on 70 shows as a guest. I'm on my community calls. I'm giving these private one-on-ones, right? These are the things that fill me up with energy. So that's what I'm spending my time on. So betterthanrich.com/90-day plan is the best place to get directly to me if a listener wanted to, stay in touch.
Amazing. Again, Mike, thank you so much for being on the show today. Out there, any last thing you want to say before we round the show up?
I would just say thanks, RJ. If anyone's listening to your stuff, I followed your YouTube, man. Awesome content. You have unbelievable guests. So listeners, subscribe if you haven't. Check out everything that RJ's doing on his YouTube channel. Really, really solid quality output, along with really great quality guests and content. So great work, RJ.
Truly appreciate it. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. We're definitely going to see you guys in the next episode. Until then, peace out.